much. Good afternoon, Iowa. Are the Polk County Democrats in the House right now? Are you ready to send Cindy back to the United States House of Representatives? Are you ready to flip a red seat and turn it blue with Admiral Franken? Are you ready to send Deidre to the State House here in Des Moines? What an honor and a privilege to be here in Iowa. Thank you, Sean, for extending the invitation and for your leadership of the Polk County Democrats. I thank all of the volunteers and workers for the things that you do to make sure that we're moving this county and this state and this country in the right direction. I'm so thankful for my friend and colleague, Cindy Axney. She is a tremendous representative on your behalf in the United States Congress. She speaks, I absolutely mean it. She's a good friend to the caucus, the Congress, the country, the Constitution, and the community she represents here in Polk County and throughout Iowa. We're thankful for her. And I look forward to serving with her and to you sending Christina down to join her as part of the Iowa delegation to get work done on your behalf during this incredibly difficult and challenging time that we have here in America. Two parties, two competing visions for the future of this country. You've got Democrats who are going to continue to work hard to put people over politics and to lean in to getting things done with our For the People agenda, fighting for lower costs, better paying jobs, and safer communities. And when we talk about working hard for the people, because we authentically mean it, at our best, what Democrats do, what you do, what Cindy does, what we try to do in Washington, D.C. under the great leadership of Speaker Nancy Pelosi. At our best, we wake up and we fight hard to try to make life better for working families, middle-class folks, senior citizens, those who aspire to be part of the middle class, the poor, the sick, the afflicted, the least, the lost, the left behind, veterans, young people, people in rural America, suburban America, urban America, small-town America, and Appalachia. Democrats at our best fight for the people. And so I thank you. Thank you for the work that you do in that regard. And so the people of this country will have a clear choice. Democrats who are putting people over politics, and extreme MAGA Republicans. Something is very wrong with the Republican Party right now. They used to believe in fiscal responsibility and national security, but now they believe in space lasers, lawlessness, disorder, insurrection, and defunding the FBI. Extreme MAGA Republicans who've gone from the Tea Party caucus to the cover-up caucus, and now we've got the QAnon caucus. You can't make it up. It's very unfortunate. No longer the party of Bob Dole, no longer the party of John McCain, no longer the party of Mitt Romney, no longer the party of John Boehner and Paul Ryan. I disagreed with them often, but who knew I would miss John Boehner and Paul Ryan? And I say that because we could battle it out on issues and strongly disagree with them, be bitterly disappointed if we lost an election, fight it out in the legislative arena, the political arena. But in America, in a country like this, in our great republic, you should be able to lose an election without being concerned that you will lose your democracy. But that's what we confront right now. That's why the stakes are so high here in Iowa. Someone asked me, you're going to Iowa, what are you going there for? I said, well, a couple of things. I'm going there to make sure that we send Cindy Axney back to Congress. And I'm also going to Polk County to help flip stakes and flip seats from red to blue. And so we appreciate Polk County Democrats, the work that you do. Two competing visions for America. Democrats putting people over politics and extreme MAGA Republicans. We're fighting hard as Democrats to move America forward. They want to turn back the clock. We're trying to bring people together. They are tearing us apart. We fight for the people. They fight for the privileged few. We believe in families, freedom, and the flag. They believe that a violent, lawless insurrection was legitimate political discourse. We believe in Social Security and Medicare. They want to end those things in 5 years. We believe in the climate crisis and the need to address the climate crisis with the fierce urgency of now. They continue to bury their heads in the sand. We believe that Roe v. Wade was wrongly decided by an out-of-control Supreme Court. And they want to criminalize abortion care and impose a nationwide ban. But here's a newsflash straight out of Congress. Democrats are going to keep fighting until the women of America have the freedom to make your own reproductive health care decisions. Period. Full stop. Back up off the women of the United States of America. Two competing visions for this great country. But we can articulate in clear ways what we stand for as Democrats. We believe in a country that provides for the poor, works for working families, makes sense for the middle class, and stands up for senior citizens. Democrats, we believe in a country that innovates in the inner city, strengthens suburban communities, and revitalizes rural America. We believe in a country with liberty and justice for all, equal protection under the law, government of the people, by the people, and for the people. And Democrats, we believe that in America, if you work hard and play by the rules, you should be able to provide a comfortable living for yourself and for your family. Purchase a home, educate your children, and retire with grace and dignity. That's the American dream that we as Democrats believe in, that we fight for each and every day. Yes. But we also understand that dream is under assault. The middle class is struggling. Rural America struggling. Those who aspire to be part of the middle class struggling. Many parts of the heartland struggling. But here's some good news in my view. Every time America has found itself in a tough spot, going all the way back to 100 years or so, the Democratic Party has risen to the occasion to try to turn things around and make life better for everyday Americans. Can we just check the record for a moment? Can we check the record for a moment? The electrification of rural America, Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, Head Start, the Civil Rights Act, the Voting Rights Act, the Fair Housing, with Democrats in the House and the Senate, great leadership from Cindy and so many others. We've been getting big things done. At this moment in time, the American Rescue Plan saved the economy, prevented us from collapsing into a recession, if not worse, put shots in arms, money in pockets, kids back in school. The Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, millions of good-paying jobs will be created to fix our crumbling bridges, roads, tunnels, our airports, our water and sewer system, clean water in every community, making sure that there's high-speed internet access all throughout America. And then We passed gun safety legislation for the first time in 30 years to make America safer. It will save lives. But of course, we didn't stop there. We stood up for our veterans and passed the PACT Act. They served and sacrificed for us. We should be there for them. And we got it done. And then, of course, we passed the CHIPS and Science Act to bring domestic manufacturing jobs back home to the United States of America, as opposed to our jobs being shipped in the other direction. And we finished off this run of legislative success by passing the Inflation Reduction Act to confront the climate crisis in a serious and decisive way, set our planet forward on a sustainable trajectory, lower energy costs, strengthen the Affordable Care Act, lower health care costs, and drive down the high price of life-saving prescription drugs for millions upon millions upon millions of Americans. Democrats, rise to the occasion to get big things done and improve the well-being of everyday Americans. And I'm confident with leaders like Cindy and the others that you will send to the House and to the Senate, that we here in America, if we continue to lean into this idea of putting people over politics, fighting for lower costs, better paying jobs, and safer communities, that the best is yet to come. We also, of course, as I prepare to conclude my remarks, have to defend our fragile democracy. A democracy that we know is under intense assault. The framers of the Constitution, they weren't perfect individuals like all human beings, but they did set us on a path toward a more perfect union. And the story is often told. They understood that democracy was not a self-executing proposition, that it didn't run on autopilot. It's not simply a spectator sport. You've got to get in the arena. Story was once told, often told, of that time in 1787, when the framers had just completed their work at that convention hall in Philadelphia. And they emerged from the convention hall, and Dr. Ben Franklin was there, and a woman named Elizabeth Powell approached Ben Franklin. She was a prominent civic activist at the time, a close friend of George and Martha Washington's, the First Lady of the city of Philadelphia. And she approaches Dr. Franklin and said, "Sir, what have you gentlemen just done? Have you created a republic or a monarchy?" And Dr. Franklin paused for a moment, said, "Mrs. Powell, we've created a republic if you can keep it." I've thought about that a lot. Why would Dr. Franklin express such skepticism about the future of the republic at a moment of great triumph? I think it's because in that convention hall, when they constructed the Constitution, all of the ideas, all of the values, all of the institutions, checks and balances, separate and co-equal branches of government, the independent judiciary, free and fair elections, the preeminence of the rule of law over the rule of man. All of those ideas, all of those values, all of those institutions had never before been put together in one form of government. And so I think that perhaps Dr. Franklin was skeptical as to whether we could keep that democracy thing going. But as your presence here represents, the power of American exceptionalism has in part been that year after year, decade after decade, century after century, we've kept this democracy thing going. But now perhaps for the first time since the Civil War, all of those values, all of those ideas, all of those institutions are under assault, not from without, but from within. Mrs. Powell, we've created a republic if you can keep it. That's the moment that we confront right now. I was on the floor during the January 6th insurrection, a day that all of us will never forget. As Cindy mentioned, I have the honor of serving as chair of the House Democratic Caucus. That puts me at number 5 in the leadership. And so I was seated in the leadership section, close to Steny Hoyer, the majority leader, and Jim Clyburn, the majority whip. My good friend, Catherine Clark, she's the assistant speaker. She's number 4. She was off campus that day. We were debating the objections to the state of Arizona. And all of a sudden, I saw the sergeant at arms approach the microphone. I'd never seen this before, and said, the mob has breached the Capitol. They're on the 2nd floor, a few steps outside of the House chamber. So be prepared to hit the ground and secure the gas masks that are underneath your seats. Now, I've got to be honest, y'all, I'd been in Congress at that point for 4 terms, and I had no idea there were gas masks underneath each and every seat. I knew this was a different kind of situation. And then I see Speaker Pelosi aggressively and almost violently removed from the rostrum by her security team. And then, of course, sitting next to Steny and Jim, I saw Steny's security team come up to him, our majority leader, and remove him. And then the security team for Jim Clyburn, the great Jim Clyburn, who was seated right next to me, said, "Sir, you have to leave now." Still remember it as if it was yesterday. And so I'm sitting there as the chair of the House Democratic Caucus. I see Speaker Nancy Pelosi aggressively removed from the rostrum. She's number 1. I see the majority leader, Steny Hoyer, removed from the floor of the House. He's number 2. I saw the great Jim Clyburn removed from the floor. "Sir, you have to leave now." He's number 3, our majority whip. I told you Assistant Speaker Catherine Clark, who's number 4, she was off campus. I got to be honest with y'all. I'm sitting there as the chair of the House Democratic Caucus, the number 5 Democrat in the House. I was waiting for somebody to come get me. But as Cindy knows, they never came. And so I thought to myself, well, it's a good thing I'm from Brooklyn. Because we just didn't know what we were going to have to do to defend ourselves and defend our democracy. And finally, after some time, some commotion, they were able to find a safe passageway to a secure location where we remained for several hours. But I tell you this story in conclusion, not because the most important thing that happened that day was that we were run off the floor of the House of Representatives by a violent mob of insurrectionists. No. The most important thing that happened that day, as an example of American resilience, is that we came back to the Capitol, we completed our work, we certified the election, and we made sure that Joe Biden will become the 46th President of the United States of America. That's what democracy is all about. That's what American resilience is all about. So let's go out there and win the day, win the week, win the month, win the election, hold the House, hold the Senate, and continue our long, necessary, and majestic march toward a more perfect union. God bless you. God bless Iowa. God bless the United States of America.